Hello everyone, Aidan here from Push Square, and today I want to talk about my personal favourite games of the year. There will be a definitive top 10 ranked video dropping on January 1st, so be sure to check that one out, but today, here's my personal picks. Number 5, we're starting off with Metro Awakening, a PSVR 2 game that somehow managed to capture the essence of the Metro series with this really stealthy, dark vibe to it. But I just really appreciated how seamless and smooth all of the tracking and the, grabbing different things worked out, whether you were grabbing your backpack and pulling things from your backpack, the way you were reloading your gun, the way you would somewhat pull back the gun to see if there was a bullet in the chamber. I love it when a VR game puts a lot of effort into making everything in world, because there's nothing more immersion breaking in a VR game than basically seeing menus or having to go out like that. When it's all built within the world, I have to say it's really impressive, and I like this game. And I know some people maybe say it's not as deep gameplay wise as it could have been or maybe should have been. I personally think it had that nice balance, because sometimes when VR games go too big and too grand with what you can do gameplay wise, I think it takes away and the technology starts to feel like it's limiting you. I certainly felt like that was the case playing a game like Behemoth, which I just did not enjoy because sometimes there was too much room for error. So Metro Awakening, I think the story was a bit... It wasn't that great, the story, in all honesty, but I just think from an experience perspective, it was fantastic. There are moments in this game where I was locked in, forgot entirely that I was, wearing a headset, probably standing in my boxers in my office because it gets so damn warm playing that thing. There's some really great moments in here, and I loved all the little immersive features, like wiping your mask to get the condensation off and checking your watch to see how much gas you had left or oxygen you had left. Really, really impressive. Number 4, we've got Still Wakes the Deep. Bit of a biased pick, in all honesty, because I am a Scottish man and this has a lot of Scottish people in it and very authentic accents at that. But generally speaking, I think this was a great focused experience. I'm a big fan of The Thing, and this is essentially The Thing on an oil rig, a Scottish oil rig. I think it was maybe a little too funneled and linear for some people, but I like it when a game takes me on this really tailored experience. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the oil rig prior to things going haywire. The Chinese Room does this fantastic job of really capturing the ordinary and the mundane, and I think that was totally the case with what we had here with this oil rig. I felt like the performances was quite a breath of fresh air for me, getting to hear accents from my neck of the woods, because it's people from Glasgow. I live near Glasgow, from the west side of Scotland. I really enjoyed hearing those accents in a game, and I think the horror was effective. I think the visual design was really nice, and although it's kind of short, maybe like 5 hours, I think, I can't quite remember, but I had a great time. I had a really good time with this game, and it's stayed with me across the year and earned itself the number 4 spot. Next up, a biggie, probably one you would expect to be higher, but we have Astro Bot. And Astro Bot, I think, was quite a shock for me, because I wasn't really that fussed with it when it was announced and when it was coming out. I actually only completed Astro's Playroom this year, and yes, I love it. But I wasn't like, oh my god, I can't wait for this full platform game, because it's not typically the type of game that I will play. Astro Bot was just a pure and utter joy. This is such a delightful and joyous experience. It felt like such a genuine celebration of PlayStation, whether that's its history or its characters, and then of course you just have this finely tuned platformer on top of all of that, and the way in which Team Asobi used creative, what you would maybe say are gimmicks, but then they just do them for a single level. There's the level with the mouse and you're shrinking yourself down. They're like, that's a really cool mechanic, let's only use it once. And then you have slowing down time, you have the dog, you've got the punching gloves. There's so many different ways in which the experience is kept fresh throughout, whether it's just the design or the theme of the level, the actual mechanics of getting around it, and then of course you have that extra topping of just PlayStation tie-ins, whether that's the devices you're finding, the characters you're finding, the platforms itself. There's these hero levels throughout the game, which basically are themed levels after certain PlayStation icons. I know that the marketing revealed the God of War level, so I mean that's as much as I'll say right now, but there's a really cool God of War level, and then there's other levels inspired by other PlayStation franchises, and the way that those levels are played are tied into the mechanics associated with those franchises. I just thought it was so clever, it was so much fun. I genuinely had a smile on my face the whole time, and when it came to the final boss or the final mission of the game, I almost got tears out of me. Genuinely, I thought it was just tears of joy. It was just so delightful, and I don't think we have enough space for happy games an awful lot of the time, especially with PlayStation, where the focus is these very heavy story driven experiences. To have something that's just pure joy, ah man, what a delight for 2024, and that's taking my number 3 spot. Coming in at number 2, we've got Silent Hill 2, which honestly, having it this high, having it even in the top 5 is such a shock for me, because when I saw this was announced, I thought it looked rubbish. I thought the gameplay looked stilted. I didn't really trust that the developer had it in them to capture what I was being told is one of the most iconic horror games ever made, because I hadn't played the original. So there wasn't the nostalgia factor. I didn't think it looked great. But through work, of course, I was recording gameplay for the review, and this game got me. I love slowly walking through these dark corridors, and the way that it uses darkness so that you basically can't see, but it's tying in the excellent sound design and the haptics to just sell you this entire experience of horror. I mean, I played this thing with lights off, curtains closed, headset on, and it was terrifying at points. It was really edge of your seat type stuff, and I just had such a good time with it. I thought maybe in parts it got a little maybe repetitive. You would go through a level and you're thinking to yourself, this is great, oh now I need to do the other world version of this. There were aspects of that for sure, but I think overall the general impression that it left on me was just I had such a great experience, sort of like Astro Bot, but of course in a completely different vibe. Some of the gameplay moments where there was the prison level with the lights moving back and forth, or just the ways that it would sometimes throw out a cry when you're going through the apartments just to freak you out basically. I loved all of those little moments, and I think it felt like such a polished package, which props to Bloober. I really did not expect it to be the case, but it was such a great game, and that's coming from someone that didn't I don't know the source material, so let me know if it's something that you enjoyed even as a fan down in the comments below. Now before we get on to my number 1, I suspect a lot of you will guess what it is anyway. Let's quickly drop down some honorary mentions. I'm just going to kind of quickly list off some of these here, but start of the year we had The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. I get the complaints didn't look crazy different on the gameplay footage, but I think when you're playing it in person, you're playing it on an OLED screen, this looks phenomenal. Genuinely one of the best looking games in PS5. But on top of that, I think the addition of No Return, the roguelike, isn't really spoke about enough, because that was a lot of fun, and the behind the scenes stuff, these these cut levels, as a massive fan of the game, I just had so much fun going through that, listening to the commentary, seeing these unfinished aspects and what could have been in the game, and ultimately why they were cut. I just loved seeing a little peek behind the curtain like that, and honestly I think it would be such a great idea for more remasters or just games in general to have more behind the scenes content. We don't get that a lot in games. It's very popular with movies of course, but I would love to see more of that here. I love this remaster. Then we have Phasmophobia, another PSVR 2 game. A little bit janky in points, but I just had so much fun playing with my friends. It's scary, but it's funny, and it's, you have to be kind of smart about it as well, which I liked. It's not just a game that you can stroll your way through, you actually have to be engaged. I like games that do that, and yeah, it's one I actually still want to play, even after the review period, even after my little initial burst with friends, we're still talking about going back to it all these months later. Destiny 2 The Final Shape was quite a surprising finale for Destiny, what has been building up for the last 10 years. As someone that's been there, I'm not like a devout like play it every day kind of guy, but I've dropped in for each and every expansion. So getting to play The Final Shape 10 years after playing, you know, the beta and then the official launch on PS4, I thought it was a great end. I thought it felt like actually quite emotional. It felt right. It just felt right. I mean, I think the power fantasy elements they built into this there, the gameplay is just unparalleled. There really is like, there's no game that manages to do that power fantasy quite the same with all of these different powers and guns and traversal mechanics. It was so much fun and it felt like a fitting end to the saga of Destiny. Lastly, Sea of Thieves, an Xbox game landing on PS5. I had so much fun with this game. You know, I'm a big co-op fan, and having a game that was like, you actually had to work together when on the ships. You know, someone's navigating, someone's steering, someone's changing the sails. All of those put together and then trying to outmaneuver other teams, other pirates, you know, chasing you down in the high seas, and it looks great as well. It's just like a kind of fun, casual time. It didn't feel like something that was bogging you down too much with levels or anything like that. You were just there vibing, trying to get treasure, having fun with mates. Let's go on to the number one. You probably guessed it already, and it's something from early on in the year, and it is Helldivers 2. I think it's like a worldwide phenomenon, this game, because you're talking about a game that a week before launch no one really seemed to care much about. It was a sequel to a game that came out in 2015 and it looked good. Even I thought like, yeah, that looks cool, but you know, whatever, we'll see how it is, I'll try it out. It drops and it becomes just such this crazy whirlwind in the gaming industry. You know, the way that this was getting pushed on TikTok with all these really funny and cinematic clips, having that sort of viral factor to it, I think did push a lot of my friends to play it as well. So having like all my mates on this game and everyone was going quite hard for it, and it's just like the most fun because it balances that cool factor with the stupid factor, and you're just constantly messing up your plans. Having all of that go together, it felt like such a well-polished package and such a masterfully executed balancing act between those different aspects of being cool and idiotic. And even now with the Omens of Tyranny, like granted, it had its moments where I wasn't sure if it would get the top spot just purely because the post-launch support hasn't really pulled me back into it for most of the part. We had the Escalations of Freedom update in like August time, and now we've got Omens of Tyranny, and me and my friends have been playing it again, and it's just so much fun. You know, it is a lot of fun. Having those like tripod creatures chasing you down and blasting through buildings is just so much fun. Like I'm so back on to the game at the moment, and it just reminded me, like, as someone that really cherishes those co-op experiences, this is one of the best co-op experiences I have had in years. Genuinely, I think it's just so much fun. So those are my favourite games of 2024. Let me know yours down in the comments below. I'm feeling a little ill at the moment, so my voice is a wee bit raspy. But thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Aaron, and this has been Push Square.